Perfect. Okay. Thank you. All right, bye. Yeah, we're good.
You want me to be here?
Yeah, just in case. Hello, everyone. Hello. It is just maybe I should wait a little bit more, maybe in 5 minutes, and I'll go ahead and I'll get started. Hopefully, more people will join us. So I'll get started at 4:08. So I'm giving a few minutes to get going. At 4:08, we'll get started. Yes, I could definitely see the comment, Jennifer. Thank you. I can see it there. So let me know when it's 8:08, David. We'll get going. Hopefully more people will join us. Go get some water.
Speak louder.
Is it time yet?
Mm-hmm.
Chandad, Channan, que chinadinaro, que chinadinabe, rabe, vasonedius davalar te yutu. Reciban un cordial saludo de un pueblo ancestral, Teotitlán del Valle, lugar de los dioses. Please receive greetings from an ancestral community, Teotitlán del Valle, the place of God. It's always an honor for me to share my art and culture with all of you, with the world. We definitely live in a very difficult time, and I hope everyone that's watching are healthy, and you guys' family are staying safe and healthy as well. My prayers go out to everyone that's struggling with their lives right now. And as for communities in Teotitlán del Valle, and by the way, I would probably give a little bit of reference where Teotitlán del Valle is. Oaxaca, Teotitlán del Valle, it's in the state of Oaxaca. Oaxaca, it's about 200 miles southeast of Mexico City. We are on the Pacific coast, and my community is in the Central Valley of Oaxaca region. I was born and raised in such a rich Zapotec culture, weaving culture, and since a really young age, I has been involved and helping my parents in different aspects of creating one piece, winding bobbins, collecting plants, cleaning wool, cleaning the finished pieces that my older brothers and parents would weave. And that's my introduction to the weaving. And much later on in life, when I was 12, I learned from my father formally to weave. But before that, one of my childhood memories is playing under his loom with the tools he uses and watching new design emerge line by line. One of the other memories I have is hiking up in the mountains to collect the plants needed for the dyeing. As we hike up into the mountains, my parents would tell us about where the plants are dying, what are the colors they give you, why it's important to preserve them and respect them. And some of the things that I learned from them, and I say the basic principles of our practice, it's understanding that the plants that we use for the dyes are alive just like us. My dad would always say to respect them and not hurt nature, because it's a life. It is something that's sacred. It's a life. And that the water, it's also a life, and it brings the force of nature. And in fact, my mother's a healer, and she uses the force of water to do a lot of the healings. My dad would say that the older people will refer to the water as the divine, or to the rain as divine. When I was growing up, I didn't really understand these principles. And when you live in such a rich culture and community, although a lot of this philosophy, it disappeared, only the elders. But I'm very fortunate to grow up with those understanding. And much later in life, I became to understand. I became to be mindful about these principles, especially the spiritual aspect of creating within my practice. When I was 18 years old, I migrated to United States in California, and I was in California for about 10 years. Then I had the opportunity to go back to my community. That's when I began to have an understanding about all these things that I just shared. But specifically, I discovered that I had a passion for weaving. When you are born in a culture that such a rich artistic style or artistic expression, it's in everyday life. Perhaps you don't even look at yourself as an artist or an artisan. It's a lifestyle. It is just part of everyday life. And when you are born within that environment, perhaps you're not mindful about a lot of things. For me, stepping aside, it really helped me to reconnect with with the culture, and it basically had an epiphany and discover the passion for the weaving. For me, growing up, I learned these practices because that's what I've learned from very young age. But that does not mean that was my calling. That does not mean that's really finding the gift. And later on, I came to understand that my gift was that. My gift was weaving. It was a dyeing, understanding and expressing, uplifting the arts and the craft of my family and the community and my principles. So that's how I came to do what I do. I came to learn all this practice from my parents, but I reconnected because I discovered my calling. And I think that's a big difference. And that's, for me, that's where the shift from just weaving what the market calls a rug. For me, I begin to express and look at my work as an art form. So again, thank you guys for everyone that's joining me, for taking the time to watch and be here with me. Hope your family and yourself are well and safe. What I like to begin and talk about the situation in the community, something that is really tough to understand within a cultural context and how people live within a community is in our culture, there's still a deep respect to the ways of life and to the beliefs that still exist within the community. Meaning, when you encounter an older family member, you salute them, you kiss their hand, and it is something that it very difficult to deal with at the beginning of this situation that we're living in. And another thing that there's certain ceremonies or there's certain celebration that happens that it is really difficult to perhaps to stop doing that, and those things involves being in contact with one another, like saluting, let's say, one of your uncle, one of the older, and you encounter them on the street. It would be for me, it would almost be a disrespect to him by not kiss his hand. Or if let's say my dad, one of his son or daughter married, and there's some ceremonies that happens prior to the marriage. There's that deep commitment that happens between each family or between community member, that it will be really difficult to cancel. It will be really difficult for you to step away from it because of the situation. So I don't know if I would say it is that respect, the commitment that really goes beyond, and it's really difficult just to say I can't kiss your hand or I can't hold your hand, or I'm gonna cancel a ceremony because of COVID-19. Although a lot of mass, a lot of gathering, celebration in the community has been canceled, of course. But there's other things that it's just really deep to the family and the community that continue to happen, and because it is just a way of life. It's almost disrespect again for the culture, for the community, for that for a family member to really not do that. And I noticed that's what the community members are struggling with. We are extremely blessed to not have any cases of COVID-19 in our community, and we pray for that to stay that way. So I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective of what's happening, how we're dealing with this situation, or how of a community that has a specific worldview of things, it's dealing with it right now. Earlier I mentioned that I split my time, or that I had migrated to United States for the last 19 or 21, about 20 years. I have been splitting my time between California and Oaxaca. And because of for the obvious reason that I'm not able to travel, I am in California right now until the situation will get better. Then I'll travel back to my studio in Oaxaca, and then I'll continue the creation of each work. So one of the things that is extremely important in creating each piece. It's the colors that my pieces are being created with, as well as the symbolic element that you see on each piece. The piece that you see right behind me, it shares the expression of Ojo de Dios. It's a very traditional design element that we get to learn, and I got to see my dad weave from a very young age. And the dots that you see around it, for me, it represents the sacred seed, which are corn, beans, and squash. You also see here that this design element here, it's the fertility symbol. So as I was growing up, I not only got to learn the natural dyeing aspect, but also the design elements. A lot of them my dad would tell the symbolic elements for it, but many of them did not have a specific meaning to it. And since I resumed this practice, I began to be very interested about learning about my own cultural identity, asking a lot of questions to my parents, which are one of the elders in the community, and other elders in the community, doing research within the community, but also outside of the community, at the Smithsonian and other institutions in the United States. I have done research just to understand a little bit more in who I am and the worldview of the Zapotec people. Maybe not the contemporary worldview, because that's what I grew up with, but the much older generation worldview and the ancient worldview of things. And I began to understand that sorry about that, guys. Corn has been cultivated in our areas for at least 8,000 years, or 6 to 7,000 years, and squash has been for at least 10,000 years. When I was growing up, one other aspects of ways of life that I learned is farming, and you will never see a kernel on the floor. When I was growing up, you will never see a beans, squash on the floor, or a piece of tortilla, or waste food. My parents really, the way they grew up, it is a deep respect to food and to nature, to the land. And every time a corn or a piece of tortillas on the floor, my dad would pick it up and he would say, "Can you guys see the sky?" Meaning the sky is clear, there's no rain. And with not rain, there wouldn't be no food or dye stuff or weaving. Even today, my dad still harvests corn, and growing up, I would see him pick the most beautiful, the biggest cob, and he puts it on the altar. And I always knew what they meant, but actually one day I've actually asked him why he would do that, and he said that this is a way to give thanks to the greater being for another year of harvest. So I began to understand the sacredness of food, especially the corn, which I believe is one of the very important reasons why the Zapotec people even still existed today, over thousands and thousands of years since corn has been domesticated in that area. So some of the elements, and some of the narratives, or my learnings begin to get narrated through my pieces, and I begin to analyze a design, and I begin to share that narrative through each piece I create. As you guys know, the design has been evolved over human life. There's a lot of influences from outside market, especially today with technology. You could see, what people from Middle East are doing, and you can see people from all over the world, things that they're doing, and those things could inspire you. And one of the most biggest influence that historically in our culture has been with the arrival of the Spanish. So in some of in our work, you see a little bit of influence, and then also once our weavings begin to be driven by a commercial market that begin to develop in the 60s, so you will really start seeing the trend of a market there as well. So, but for me, I honor those influences perhaps, but I always try to honor the Zapotec heritage. And the design elements, I begin to narrate them and perhaps to reclaim them through my voice and through the expression that I give each piece. So in a lot of my pieces, you might see the dots, and that's a traditional element in the Zapotec weavings, but for me, those are the sacred seed that my parents honor, and that I honor as well. The sacred seed, which are corn, beans, and squash. The design element that I pointed earlier, it might be totally different thing for other people, but to me, that is a fertility symbol. That to me, that represents the stalk on the corn. And other elements that you see in this piece here, this part, you see cycle of life, or Greca. This is some of the designs that it's seen nearby community in nearby my community. It's called Mitla, one of the most important archaeological sites nearby. So these are a lot of the design elements or inspiration of the community still comes from there. So essentially what I'm doing is just narrating these elements and these philosophy and these understandings that has been developed for thousands and thousands of years by the Zapotec people. And a lot of the work that I do, for some of you, if you have a chance to visit my website, you see some of these designs that are quite very contemporary, because my practice is not only honor the past but also the present. I am living a contemporary environment where definitely that influences my work as well, and it's almost I'm narrating those stories or these elements through my work, and a lot of these designs could probably look very contemporary or very abstract, I should say. But something that I want to get back to are the natural dye that I began to talk about earlier. Is that the natural dye, you don't, to me, my understanding about using natural dye, I don't do natural dye, and not solely because I've learned from being young, not just that, and that's the principle of doing what I do, of course, but I use natural dye because it's my calling. I weave because it's my calling. Just like my mother says, that the greater being bless her hands to heal others, and without that blessing she will not be able to do what she does, and she is appointed basically by the greater being to do what she does. And it's the same way I feel with my practice. My practice, it is involve those principles, and it involves family members and community members. So we're about 35 people in my studio that help to create each piece. So for me, weaving, it is extremely special. It's not only represents our second skin, but it's definitely something, for me, it is a way for me to honor the great weavers and dyers before me. Something that's really important, and that I'm sure many of you guys have heard about, the cochineal insect. And the symbolic element of the red, it's extremely deep to the ancient Mexico, and has been used for different ceremonies, burials. Even today in my community, one of the procession that happens in the community is women wears a red enredo, or a skirt, and a lot of course, a lot of these information or why we do certain things has gotten lost because of the conquest of the Spanish. That's where all this started, and of course we now deal with neocolonialism. But we wear red because subconsciously, or indeed it has been part of a ceremony for generation, if not maybe thousands of years. But presently, for me, when I see red or when I see this procession happening, I could not probably tell you why that happens, but all I can say is those are the memories that connects us to the ancestors. And to me, the red color is extremely important and sacred. It is so for my community and for other community that still honors the red in that specific way. So the red comes from a cochineal insect, and it's a cochineal insect that grows on prickly pear cactus. It takes about 60 to 70,000 insects to make only 1 pound of dye stuff. And it takes about 1,000 to 1,200 leaves of prickly pear to make 1 kilo of dye stuff. We know so much about it, how it got to export it to Europe and the rest of the world, and it got to be worth more than gold at one point. And for us, has always been something very special, and use it today. It is again a way to honor the people who developed these dye stuff, or how they came to domesticate these insects in order to yield a much more larger amount of cochineal insect. So these insects are domesticated. My understanding is that the Kerminic, the red that you see if you ever crush one, that red, it forms because how their body process what they eat. So their body gets to be made that way. It's not their blood that's red. And for domesticated insect, my understanding, it has about 15% of carminic acid. And wild cochineal insect, where you find a lot of, especially in more desert or semi-desert area in the United States, those only have about 10% of carminic acid. So basically, they're not good for dyes. Their life cycle, it's about 2 months, 3 months, depending the weather. Sometime when the weather's much colder, the growth slows down, and you harvest them. They dehydrate. These are all female insect, and once they're dehydrated, you grind it up and you begin to create your dye stuff. And working with natural dye is absolutely complex. When I analyze about this practice, it begins not only by the knowledge, or from having the knowledge, but also there's a belief, and that has to do with emotional, and how the color would turn out. In our family, this is an important aspect, and a very important understanding of is to understand that it involves your emotions when you're working in a piece or when you're creating certain colors. So then there's a lot of you begin to change the pH on the cochineal insect, so it could begin to shift colors, more than the yarn and so forth. So it could take about at least 3 to 5 days to obtain one color only. And what I have with me here, I do have a little bit of cochineal insect. This is, hopefully you guys are able to see it. This is grind up, I don't know if the lighting is good. This is grind up cochineal insect. And this is such a fine powder, and it has to be grind up extremely fine, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to waste these precious element. So you grind it extremely fine, and what I want to do is I want to just do a quick demonstration of the reaction by adding a little bit of water to the cochineal insect, then you could see right away that burgundy, the deep red that the insect reveals. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna change the pH on the source, and you begin to see how the colors begins to shift to another color. So this is by adding lemon juice or any acid component, natural acid component, and you begin to actually get a different color, more of an orangey red. And I'm gonna add calcium hydroxide, or cal in español. And you begin to create a more of a purplish color. So this is a basic understanding about how to shift the color and how much science involved or chemistry involved into shifting and creating each color. And that's why it takes a lifetime to develop and to become master of working with natural dye. So, and that's just only one element, and those are the colors that you could see on these pieces. So this part here, these are all cochineal insect, and it goes from a huge variety of different shades of red into orangey, purple, and so forth. But what I want to do right now is take few minutes to, would love to answer some of you guys' question, and you know, please just feel free to ask me or make any comments that you would like to do. How much time we have? I have my assistant here who is keeping track of the time. David, how much time we have? What time is it now?
4:34.
Okay, 4:34. Okay, so I'm just kind of trying to read some of these, maybe some questions that I see here. Okay, take your time, Jennifer. Amazing. Do you need a squirt fabric? What is that squirt fabrics? What does that mean? Are you saying if I need to mordant the fabric before it's dyed? If you could reformat your question. There, I see a comment there, and let's see what else I got here. Absolutely. You have to wash the material. It is when it is definitely what it takes to create colors. It is extremely disciplined and certain ways and certain steps that you need to take in order for the material to absorb the dye, in order for it to give you the color that you're looking for. You're gonna have reaction if your material it's actually dirty, meaning it might have certain oils in it, and that's gonna make it react, though it's might not gonna absorb the dye whatsoever. So all your material has to be clean, and then you begin to dye, and you begin to the process of actually dyeing your material. Even some of these plants, that what we do is we abstract the pigment from it, almost like making a tea, and then put the material so that way not a lot of residue will stick to the plant, to the material. But some of the plants, you cannot do that. You absolutely have to dye directly, and therefore it takes a long time for you to clean the material and before it's even woven or worn. Amy's asking here, how many weavers are in your village, and how many uses natural dye? In my community, we are probably about 6,000 to 7,000 population, and I'll probably say about 80% are involved in the weaving aspect. You know, some aspect or that are involved in the weaving production, but only maybe 5 families, maybe 8 max, that truly of every piece that is being created at that studio, it is definitely dyed with natural dye. Not that many, maybe 5, between 5 and 8. I mentioned earlier that I use natural dye not only because I come from a cultural tradition of natural dye, but I do it because it is my calling. And only if you understand that, for me, that's how I understand it, at least. Only if until I understood that I'm doing the work that I do, because you're fighting against the chemical dyes, mass-produced weaving. You're fighting against the odds, basically, and only your calling would help you to get through those things, because you still need to eat, you still need to feed your family, keep your tradition alive. But the market, it's demanding for something cheaper and faster. I've spent many years of my life along with my sister Juana, who has been also with me for the last 18 years that I started my studio. We have been doing research into develop the amount of colors that you see on our pieces today. So it takes tremendous labor in order to work with natural dye, and you really have to be committed to quality and go through those difficulty through your journey. To me, that's why I use natural dye. Otherwise, there's a lot of easy way to do things. So what kind of fabric is, one of the questions, what kind of fabric is my favorite to weave? Maybe silk. To be honest with you, I'm really drawn to plant fibers, meaning like ixle, where the from agave fibers. I'm really drawn to palm leaves. I'm also really drawn to, of course, wool. That's the main materials that we work with. But I'm really drawn to natural color and texture of the fiber. And a lot of my pieces, you see I do quite a lot with just natural sheep color. It has a tremendous expression just on its own. It has a lot of texture, and it is definitely something that tells, it's showing the beauty of where it came from, either through the sheep, through a plant, and I'm also I haven't done much with silk, to be honest, but I'm really drawn to understand about other materials of other indigenous people around the world as well. But I think as far as material, those are something that I'm really drawn to and work with, and would love to continue to explore in other materials. Maybe, I don't know, cashmere, paca, or some other materials as well. So you want to see if I could answer some of the earliest questions, because I know some of you has been greatly up there with me since when I got started. So one of the questions is, can you tell me where I am? I think I answered some of that earlier, that I'm spending time in California, in Ventura, California right now, and it's splitting my time between Oaxaca. Spending time in California has brought, or being exposed to a much more urban America, has brought much more a depth, and brought, inspired me to create the work that I'm creating now, as far as design-wise go. And this is how I have also been able to reconnect with the world, basically, and much more connected when I'm in U.S. When I'm in Oaxaca, I really try to focus much more in the production, and just really stay quiet when I can. And when I'm in California, that's, things flow much better, and being connected to the world. I guess you could say, that it is a little bit more easier to conduct, the business side of what I do from outside of the studio. And that's how I got to know ACTA, this wonderful organization that it is has kindly invited me to do this, sponsor a workshop, a series of workshop that was done by Ventura County Arts Council. I can't remember how many years that ago, and the proposal was to create a series of workshop for the indigenous people living in this area, and so I was really honored to be part of that and reconnect with my people up here as well. So I really appreciate that opportunity, and also the opportunity that you guys are giving me to come close to the audience today and share my work with all of you. Do you feel I'm okay? Another question here. Yeah, I don't. One of the question is if I weave items like saddle blankets or smaller items like ropes. I don't. For my work, I guess if I could explain what is it that I do, I weave tapestry and rugs. I guess if I have to explain it that way, but also I have done some really cool bags, and some much more small items. I don't specifically, when I designing one piece, when I creating one piece, I don't specifically thinking how this piece is gonna be used. I work and I create functional art, what I call that. It could be used on the floor, on a couch, on the wall, a centerpiece for a table. When I'm creating one piece, I'm creating art. I'm creating a piece of art, and how people are gonna end up using it, it's really up to them, and they have the freedom to do that. So that is really my intention, is for me to be able to use my medium to share the energy, to share the narrative, and talk about and address maybe certain issues like chemical dyes and so forth through the piece that I'm making. I'm sure it could definitely be used as saddle blankets. I have no doubt about that. But I don't specifically create something just for that. How are we doing with time?
It's 4:47.
4:47. Okay. Well, I would like to, if there's any other, maybe I'll take one more question. We'd love to wrap things up. Do you? One more question from Jennifer. Do you recall the first piece you finished? One of the things that a question that was arised, I think it was by the New York Times a couple of years ago, that they asked me the same question, and something that I truly remember is creating my own backpack to take to school. And that was the first piece that I actually had the freedom to create, and for me to just grab yarn, put a design that I was drawn to, and make it was actually not a backpack, or I call it a backpack, but it's more of a bag that kind of goes across here, and that's where a lot of the kids in my generation will use for their to go to school. But in this case, I was blessed. I say blessed. I was blessed to make my own, and I think that was the first design that I could truly recall that I made. And in fact, the gentleman that was working in our house, my dad was doing some remodeling at our family home. He wanted to buy the piece, and I think that's where that's how I going back. That's how I began to that's the time that I began to wanting and pushing this interest of designing, of creating, of begin to take a step on my own to begin to develop some ideas and designs. So I would like to thank each and every one of you who took the time to join me. I really appreciate Amy, Jennifer, ACTA for all the work that they're doing in this world. It is definitely an honor for me to always have the opportunity to come before all of you to share my art and culture. May the greater being bless you and your family. Please be safe out there, and hopefully very soon that we'll have the opportunity to shake your hands and give you a hug as I normally do it. I guess that's one of the biggest problem, or not problem, but that's one of the biggest thing that has touched my my heart right now. It's not being able to travel as I used to, and being able to shake people that appreciates my work and give them a hug. That's just my way to be thankful to when I have the opportunity. One last thing that just Jennifer is bringing here. Yeah, if you like to visit my, continue to follow my work, you could visit my website. Is Porfirio Gutierrez.com, and Instagram is Porfirio Gutierrez y Familia. That's how you'd find me, and hope I would hear from you could keep in touch. So thank you all of you for all the for the opportunity. Thank you.